Today I got something a little different for you. We're going to do a first impression piece. Instead of a full review on this sword, I will do a full review of it in the future, but full reviews tend to take a bit more time. I have to set up the tatami, prepare all of that, do a bunch more editing. This one's going to be a bit more freeform, and just try to give you a bit of, I guess, my first thoughts on the sword itself. So this is the SWM-1038 Type 20A from Swordier. It retails on their site for $280 United States dollars. So, a bit of a disclaimer right off the bat. This sword was sent to me for a review. I paid nothing for this sword. Why it was sent to me was for a little bit of a different reason than reviewing this particular sword itself. This was sent to me because I had ordered a custom blade from Swordier of a Type 20A, where I made some revisions to the blade. I changed the fullering configuration. I changed the steel type in here. I changed the fittings. And Alex from Swordier decided, hey, why don't I send you the base Type 20A from our stock catalog that you can review alongside of your custom piece to kind of show this is what you would buy right off the website, and then the custom piece being what Swordier can do for custom work. So I am still waiting on that piece, but I thought it might be a good idea to give this sword its own review because it is an interesting blade. Type 20 and Type 20A are one of my favorite from the Oakshot typology, so of course I was excited to actually look at this sword. For those unaware, Type 20s and Type 20As were the last of the great sword of war to be used in the medieval period before we move into the Renaissance, when we start getting true great swords, as we would call them in our modern vernacular. The Zweihanders, Montantes, those very flamboyant Landsknecht soldiers with their bright colors and codpieces.
Oh my.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. Back to the sword. This would have been a sword designed for the battlefield. They tended to be a bit more robust because they were meant to be taken into armored combat, soldier combat, that kind of thing, where you'd be on the battlefield. And this would not have been commonly used as a civilian carry. They tend to be a bit heavier because of this. Now, before I get into the sword, I will talk about the scabbard. You do get another scabbard with their sword, which is great. And we're starting to get to a point now in European swords where almost all of them now come with scabbards. I think more and more makers are starting to see that without a scabbard, it's something's missing. Some of the higher end makers, Albion particularly comes to mind, where they still do not do scabbards, and you often have to buy them from another party. But a lot of the other ones, Lockwood Swords, Valiant Armory, I think Arms and Armor, they offer scabbards at an additional fee for almost all their blades. So it's becoming more of a norm than a rarity like it once was. So it's nice it came with one, but it's starting to become more of an expected thing, especially among budget mid-range sellers, because it's just a way of protecting the blades they make, and they tend to make them fairly on the cheap. There's not a lot to them. It's more or less something to protect your blade. It's not of the best quality in the world. I will say that compared to the Type 16A, which I did a full review on this channel, they have upgraded the leather. It's still a cheap leather, but it feels better. So, it's one of those leathers where I'm like, it's either a very high-end fake leather or a low-end real leather. And I do believe that is the case. The belt system, actually, as I look at this, as I gave it a sniff test. No, it's leather. It's actual leather, I believe. Now that I'm sitting here holding it, the top part I'm not so sure, but the inside definitely feels that way and smells that way. Belt is of a different quality leather than the Scabbard. It's somehow lower. It might be a similar piece, but because they don't treat the inside of it, the inside's fairly raw, like rawhide. It is what it is. There are no risers on this Scabbard like on the other one, so the belt system will move. But to be frank with you, I'd once again probably still get a different belt to go with this. It's nice they have it if you have nothing else, but it definitely is very cheap. I mean, the whole sword itself is only 280 USD, so you're gonna make compromises. It is a wood scabbard, probably I would imagine pine. Perhaps bamboo, but I don't think so. I do think it's probably pine. They do put that little rubber piece on the inside here to in its retention. The little metal fitting here at the end, which I always forget the name of. They did do what looks like a laser etching into it of this like vine motif. It looks okay. I don't think it's needed, and it's not so stark and popping that unless you're really looking at it, you probably wouldn't realize what it is unless you got it really up close to you as I hit my light. But it's again, it's serviceable. It works for the price point. It's nice you get it at all. And if it is becoming more of a norm. Back to the blade itself. I'll look at the fittings first. One thing they did upgrade on these fittings from the Type 16A, when a lot of people first started reviewing the Type 16A, there was a lot of question on what this metal was made of. Now, I know in my video I reached out to Alex and found out it is indeed made of stainless steel, but it's a cast stainless, and they didn't clean it up in the other version on the Type 16A, okay? And because of that, it did have this almost porous, pewter look to it that, I don't know. It was a little bit of, I don't want to say off-putting, but it looked rough. We'll say that. It looked rough. This, they did much better. They polished it up a lot more. It actually almost has a mirror polish to it in many places. So it's very shiny and very cool. The leather itself on here is of the same quality as that's on the Scabbard. So they did away with the rubber shrink wrap, and they did put at least a low quality leather on here. The stitching on the side here, which I'll try to get some video for you, is decent. There's a few places where you see the leather popping up, especially about near the riser, but it's not terrible. It's not too bad at all. I will say they upgraded the handle fairly significantly. It has the same wasted grip as the 16A, but they added this little bit of a concave, I want to say grind, but it's not a grind, but they added this little concave feeling so that each part of this has a bit of a dip where your hand feels like it sinks into. It works really, really well. I do believe that this hilt itself is made of like a 3D printed plastic, probably, was it polypropylene or something like that? Because you can see it here at the tip of the handle where it meets the crossguard. The leather does look good, but you can see the plastic underneath it just a little bit. It's not visually unappealing. You have to look for it, but you can definitely tell. So it's not a wood scabbard or a wood handle or anything like that. I do believe it is a 3D printed handle. A lot of budget makers are going that route now because I think it's probably cheaper for them to design the model once. 3D printer takes care of all the work. They have to do maybe a little bit of cleanup afterwards, but not near as much as a wood handle would have to be carved in. So it's a little different. I will say, I don't know if this is a systemic problem with this blade type or it's just the review sample that I have. there is staining on the blade, and I just cut myself. The blade comes very sharp. I'll get to that in a minute. There is staining on the blade. When it first got it, it did come in what looked like Ren wax or something like that, which I thought was cool to keep it from rusting. But when I tried to clean it off, it didn't all come off. And if you look particularly in this section of the blade, a little bit up here, you're gonna see these splotching patterns in the blade. This is not a pattern welded blade. This is unintentional, but it was here. I don't know if, again, I was sent a sword for review that they wouldn't have sold anyway. It wouldn't have passed quality control, but it would work for a review sample. That happens, okay? And the splotching and staining that's on the blade doesn't appear to be, well, I can tell right off the bat, it's not something that is critical to the blade that would cause a failure. It's not a pitting rust or anything. It's just a staining. It's cosmetic only. It's not a big deal. But I think it's something you should know, because if you got this sword and you were excited for the sword and then you pull it out and it goes, you're looking at this thing going, there's a lot of dark splotches on it, you might be disappointed. So again, I don't know if this is just from this batch of blade, if it's the wax they use that causes staining. It's probably something to look at and keep an eye out for. This particular blade does have quite a bit of it, but keep that in mind. It is this beautiful wide triple fullered blade we got going on here. And I will say, out of the box, as you just saw happen to me, it's sharp. I was using a wax or an oil rag earlier to try to get, the staining off or whatever. And I slit my thumb, actually. It's only a very small cut. It's almost looks like a paper cut, but I was surprised it happened. And just now, while trying to hover my hand over it, I slid across the blade ever so gently, and I cut this portion of my hand too. So it is sharp. It did come surprisingly sharp for this blade. And I'm sure at different points as I sit here and rub my finger, right here is a little duller than right here. Right here is almost shaving sharp. Ooh. I might be able to shave right here, just on that part of the blade. So there is inconsistent sharpness, but there is quite a bit of sharpness on this blade right out of the box. I have never cut with this blade yet, so this is 100% factory right out of the box. I think the last thing I would highlight, this is a hefty blade. It's to be expected for a Type 20, Type 20A to be a bit heftier as a great sword of war, but I don't think it's because of blade geometry that this blade is hefty. I haven't taken measurements of this blade with my calipers yet, but from just a visual inspection, there is very little to no distal taper on this blade. Hardly any at all. Like, it's fairly obvious just even from looking at it that it's almost the same thickness from here to here. If there is distal taper, and I will find out in the full review, I can tell you it's going to be minimal. I'll try to get some video, and I'm sure you probably can't see it from here, but the gap on the crossguard is fairly wide, and which is to be expected from cast fittings. This was not designed for the sword itself. It was made in a batch and fitted to this particular sword. But that's it. This is the Type 20A from Swordier. Check back for a full review. You will find the full review when it's done in the description. I will add it retroactively, and there will be a link here and here. Perspective is off. It'll be in one of these corners taking you to the full review, and probably even at the end of the video somewhere down here. So check that out.